a little bit of fuzziness in the background. I'm testing that out.
Ooh.
So just so you know, it was one of the features. I was like messing around with the template, the branding. It looks a little bit more nicer now. The rip currents, hopefully it's
Yeah.
kind of fitting. I was kind of testing that. So this is a live in real time as we go, kind of evolving show. I'm Scott Martin for Rip Currents, and Julie, my co-host here. We're going to be talking today about a little span of some really exciting things. But let's kick it off with, how did your week go? What happened this week?
It was a great week. There was a lot of interesting ins and outs and learning this week, but I don't think I nearly learned as much as you. And I'll be going to a conference next week, so I won't be here, but I know you're going to finish off with a talk about the conference you were just at. I think it was an interesting week for announcements. I think if this week had a theme, it was announcements. And I
Right.
know immediately everybody's thinking I'm talking about the Swifty one, but
There's a few more. Yeah.
a lot,
So
yeah.
for me, yeah, like you said, I was gone. I went to CEX, which stands for Content Entrepreneur Expo, and it was awesome. Normally when I go to, I've been to a lot of events. Normally when I go, it's like, it's a mixed bag. Like you're like, I'm always looking for the gems, and I hold on to those gem sessions, going, yeah, you know what? There's three or four things, or I always try to take one thing from a session. But usually about 80%, I'm like, yeah, I kind of know that already, or it wasn't a good presentation, or whatever it is, right? Every single one, taking notes, high quality, and I think it was because I was truly the true audience, meaning it was geared towards people that are it's content entrepreneurs, people that are
Mhm.
building a business. They're like mostly solopreneurs or businesses that are using content as the primary source, which most people are for their business. And so it kind of covered off such a great gamut of everything that I'm doing, and literally every area that I wanted, from community to book, to IP preeminence, to category, to what's going on with AI. So I'll kind of give you a little bit more breakdown, but it really covered off, like, I felt like I was complete. And
Oh,
to start it off, my very first going to the event is Mark Schaefer, who's anybody knows who that is, just type it in. Legend in marketing. He's written about, I think, 8 or 12 books. His most recent one is Audacity. I did a podcast with him on Belong to the Brand, which is about community being the last strategy. And he and I went for breakfast. What a treat! It was just really good to meet him in person, and just kind of connect. And that was the beginning of this deeper connection. And then once I went to the event, and I met Joe and Robert Rose and Hanley and many of these people, I just felt like I was like really connected and part of, like, I felt really welcomed. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't just a participant.
mm.
It felt very 300 plus people, but it felt really cozy, and
Oh,
it was
nice.
incredibly friendly and networky. So they had this one thing that was really cool. They had an app for the event. It was pretty
Okay.
cool, but it was a standalone app. So you can, I don't know if you, maybe I'll turn my phone brightness down, but it was a standalone app. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
CX,
Yeah.
and it's completely branded to it's
Yeah,
probably
and
like
like
a,
you can like see all the people who are attending and connect
yeah,
with them
exactly.
there. Yeah.
So I was able to pre-connect with people. So I had meetings with people that were there that I didn't know. I kept on LinkedIn. So it created this like really cool community effect, and and it was sponsored by Mighty Networks, which is the network that my community's on.
Oh, nice.
And by the way, for anyone, this is like a shameless plug. If you're not on it and you want to test it, everything I'm about to explain to you, go to mightygroundswell.com. That's my affiliate link. So, anyways, it's totally branded for Mighty Networks, and I've never seen them use it for a conference. It was always for community and so forth, right? And so that added a lot of dimension to the experience. And going around, sort of like a little bit of what I learned, I think probably the biggest thing is there's so much talk around just like AI and just how much it's going to be affecting business. The sort of pervasive sort of feeling, even though there's a lot of people talking about the great uses of it and stuff, is the idea of nothing's going to trump communication. In fact, the one keynote that just absolutely crushed it was by Robert Rose here. He was in
Okay.
my podcast, amazing guy, and he wrote Valuable Friction. And he went and broke down just like everything, I like, how patience is the new growth act. That's from my book, and he's going up and he's talking about slowing down to speed up. It's like really talking about like just because you can, should you? What's that creating for us when we? He called it skipping the intro button. Like if you go on Netflix, like that intro was designed by the artist. It was meant to set the stage for the movie.
Yeah.
And I caught myself. I'm like, I kind of do that sometimes, but sometimes we don't. If it's Yellowstone, I just watch. I like the intro,
Have
and
you
I always
seen
play it.
Severance? Have you seen Severance
Yeah,
yet?
yeah, I've watched Severance too. That one's good.
Their intros,
Pretty,
they
yeah, those are beautiful
deserve an
intros.
award.
It's funny you'd say Severance because Severance came up as an incredible show that is about another major topic that came up with Jay Acunzo, which is premise.
Hmm.
Really getting clear about what's your premise of your talk. And he was talking about having that to really captivate people. And they used, I think, with an additional talk that someone else talked about, premise, Severance, because Severance has such a powerful premise. The idea that you have one brain or experience, then when you go to work, you have a completely different experience, and you can't. The two are totally severed from each other. That's
Hmm.
an interesting premise, and so how important that is for creators, businesses to have a really powerful premise. Like Jay Kunzo's is, don't market more, matter more, right? What a great premise,
Ah.
And so, anyway, so these are some of the things that really came up that were really powerfully potent about not just they're about articulation and depth for people so I recommend it to anybody that's going. I'm probably now it's now permanently going to be on my calendar. Absolutely enjoyed it. So many different insights. Not sure. I want to give a little pause for you to kind of say something, but I feel like I ranted a little bit about CX.
No, you know what, Scott? I think this is such an important thing. I tend to go to like two or three conferences a year because my belief is that as creators, designers, marketers, sometimes we end up in our own echo chamber. And when we go to conferences like this, not only do we have a sense of community and have people that understand the unique challenges of our industry or what we're facing, but it also gives us an opportunity to get insights into different directions, different angles. People are taking different philosophies, different theories, and that we can apply, to our business and make us better. And I think that just even the access to this level of creativity that you get from some of these conferences, you can't help but leave inspired. You
Oh
can't
man.
help but leave looking at everything completely differently. Like I'll be at Inbound next week, which is by HubSpot, and then I do the gathering generally in October, and then I'm doing one in New York as well. And I think all of these, like especially with how quickly marketing is changing right now with the application of AI, but what needs to change and what doesn't need to change. Like, I think there needs to be, this is a really healthy opportunity for people to have the discussions about how and where we can use AI that still honors our audience, how to think about our audience differently because never have we been in such a connected state. And I
Mhm.
think that not only impacts marketers, but it impacts our audience. So having being able to be in an area where you can have these conversations with people, invaluable. I think it's really healthy for any marketer or designer to go to a couple times a year.
Yeah, I kind of initially was resisting, even though Joe has been asking me to go or suggesting I should go for quite a long time, and I'm really glad I did. But I normally for me, I'm like, it's August, it's nice here. I traveled so much as over years, so I kind of really trying to just break it up a little bit. But man, am I very glad. Just meeting everybody in person is another factor, and I think in real life events is going to be on the rise. It has to be.
Oh,
It's it really is a deeper connection because as much as we like to say we can, and we can, like through Zoom, I've made a lot of contacts and relationships and a lot of sales, and through my community and LinkedIn and stuff, but nothing beats that. It just sort of like really seals the deal a little bit differently. So it's a big theme also in this about connection that you know AI is not going to create more connection. And if anything, it's just another algorithm of like there's one talk that was about SEO, and it's if you're authentically showing up in human right now, it might seem like you're on the losing battle of the arms race of AI overwhelming. You're getting sort of pushed down through the AI
mhm.
single serving, plus Google is pushing it down further, and It was a lot of. I'm sure I'm giving you like the really like totally unclear
Kinetic, yeah.
explanation of that because it wasn't my talk, but just demonstrating that over time, brands that are coherent, they're ethical, they're showing up, they're legitimate, like they're literally not gamifying keywording and stuff like that. Those that whole day, those that's all ending, and because AI is looking for legitimate, verifiable experts or ones that are going. If I'm looking for, in his example, use if I'm using looking for ethical jeans, right now if you type that in, it'll show up as Banana Republic, and you can see that he just showed how they just seeded it. But yet this other brand, I think it's called Nudie Jeans or something, and then he showed how ethical they are. Like they literally have sewing machines at the cash register to like help you repair your jeans if you ever wanted to for free or whatever. Like it's like the world's most ethical jeans, and they didn't even categorize, but he just showed what's changing. And for me that was that talk amongst all of them just really made me really feel inspired about just tickled my brain about feeling good about the fact that AI is great. It's gonna have a lot of things, but for those that are experts in authentically showing up, there's gonna be a great renaissance for artists and authentic people. I think.
I like what you touched on because I think one of the things you touched on was we can buy all of these spaces. We can buy rank on Google, we can buy SEO, we can buy and manipulate keywords and things like that. All of us as marketers, a lot of us know how to do these tricks, but what that disconnection from the audience when everything's bought, like you can't buy personality, right? For example. So you can always find somebody who has faked it or used AI. And then when you actually integrate with them, you're like, they've just paid for this. So like that ethical jeans example, I'm not familiar with it, but in my mind, I would be looking at Banana Republic and going like, well, how credible are they that they just bought this spot for something that I don't really believe they belong to? Then does that leave a sour taste in your mouth? And you want to continue looking for who is really genuinely an authentic do good gene brand.
And I think humans now, the BS meter 2025 is going.
Oh god.
2026 is going to go even more. Like our BS meters are getting stronger and more fortified with skepticism.
Hmm.
In fact, just wrote an article today about it's not about grabbing attention; it's about attracting. The first step, and connecting, and then finally adding trust before people are going to take action. It's changing.
Well, I think a lot of business owners, a lot of people in general think that the bigger your audience, naturally, the more successful you'll be. And without realizing that, these attraction things through authenticity, through connection, through community, they don't necessarily give you those big follower numbers, but they give you the numbers that matter. Right? Like when you think of
Yeah.
how many of your clients refer you, how many of your connections refer you, you don't need to have 300,000 people. You could have 300 and be equally successful because they're a really strong connected group. And I think that's why we're looking to like micro influencers and nano influencers because they definitely have a stronger connection within their audience.
And it doesn't wouldn't surprise me if AI is going to go. You have 100,000 people and you got no engagement and no one's really liking anything versus this other person that's what they talk about. They got high engagement and they're being cited in places. And I think that's another pattern
Mhm.
that I think AI is going to showcase. I think the renaissance of PR is going to be huge. I think that's great. I think it's actually it gave me because I would have had a little bit. I don't know if anyone else feels it, but I feel a little bit of like angst about like how's this going to work? And now I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? Stay the course. I've been right. Like I just got to stay the course of being what I'm doing. It's gonna be work out just great.
Yeah, I think with any new thing, with any new product, like, there's the whole adage of, graphic designers thought that they were going to be out of business when computers were invented. And it's like it didn't make us need less graphic design. In fact, I think when you have more graphic design. And it's not as though graphic designers, even when Canva came out, we thought, "Oh gosh, some graphic designers are going to be out of job." None of that becomes true. I think what the audience demands changes and there will always be places for everything. And I think, going to these conferences only reiterates that, is that, there's a definitely a market who's not going to care if something's AI artist or not. There's a market that's like, no, I want traditional artists. There's going to be people who are like, I don't care if it's AI content. Others that are like, I want human generated content. I think it's actually just going to empower the audience and the consumer to have another standard that they can choose from, right?
Totally.
So,
There's junky movies
mm,
and people watch them. It doesn't mean that and it doesn't, so there's the spectrum.
yeah,
Like they're saying, I think one of the talks was about AI agents. They're going to be agents. You're going to have agents that are going to go and shop for you. So now you got to market to the agents. And there was a lot of pushback on, like, fuck the agents. Like, we're going to do our own thing. If that's for people that want to have that experience, that's just a different way of marketing. It doesn't mean that's the only way of marketing. You're not going to see it succeed if you don't do it. It
mm,
just might be just another way of doing it. You know what I mean? Which made sense to me, because you're like your example. It's like it didn't go away. It didn't it didn't kill the industry because of graphic design apps. Like, I'm not using an abacus in the cave. I'm not saying that I'm a purist, but I'm also still using a calculator. I'll still use AI, but I think there's um, you know, I think it's just giving us more choices. But it's going to get crazy, I think.
yeah. I think we're gonna hit this, like, we're this peak of uncertainty before it kind of levels out and it all shakes out. We find out where we belong and where everything works. Because I agree, it's the same thing. Having more choice is not a bad thing. And I always say that AI is going to replace what it can replace. But you know, people say that AI is going to make us all dumb. And I actually think that AI has the opportunity to make us smarter, because we not only can we learn from AI, but the second thing is AI has hallucinations. So sometimes it takes our critical thinking to be able to spot that, or when our spidey senses peak up because we've read something that from AI that doesn't quite make sense, we're like, "Oh, something doesn't feel right. What is it? What am I dissecting? What is something that doesn't make sense?" And so I think there is an opportunity for us to actually become a little bit more in tune, a little bit more critical, think differently using AI.
I think someone at the conference said this. They said AI just amplifies whatever it is that's there. So if you're a great artist, it's going to just amplify and give you more options and more things to do. And if you're crummy, it's going to just amplify crummy. That's why the sea of sameness is just like more barf. Like, think of junk mail. It's just like more junk mail. It's not.
That's what scares me. Okay, let's get to the real conversation here. Now I'm realizing that with AI, the amount of spam emails and phone calls and text messages that I can get because of AI agents, that's kind of what scares me.
Mhm.
And I hope that, like, I know in Canada we have the Canadian anti-spam legislation, in Europe they have GDPR, but that is one thing that does alarm me, because the amount of emails that I get are slowly increasing over time, and you unsubscribe and it feels like it's impossible to unsubscribe from things. But how, we have agents that are able to scrape the internet and find, your business owner, so your emails on the internet somewhere, scraping these databases, and are now able to market to you, and it's just using an agent, it's not using a human. So I think, like, we're going to be even more skeptical about our email, and we're going to be like, how do we find a new way? Like, we already know that text message is more effective than emails. What's going to happen next is it's probably going to be like voice messages are going to trump text messages, because we can actually tell that it's a human behind it until
Except for
AI
now, you can replicate
does
human voice
voices.
in
Yeah.
AI, right? You
So
know,
was it going to be FaceTime? We're going to have to do all FaceTime
it's
messages
we're
to
just
each
gonna we're
other.
slowly just like getting our elbows up or protecting
Mm.
ourselves. I mean, I think if I used to answer my phone all the time, I would just answer the phone, and now I
The
never answer my
doorbell.
phone. I never answer the doorbell. I never answer the phone. Right? Like I'll if it's someone I know, I'll even then I kind of double check. But if it has to be a number I know, and if it's
Mm.
important, I'll leave voicemail. So I always get back. So that becomes it's changing. Like, and I think this is going to create some changes in how we connect, and that's why I think the rise of virtual communities are
Yeah.
going to be just exploding. Because of that reason, we're craving places that we can communicate, and we're not being just bombarded by the bots.
Well, yeah. So how many meetings do you go to? And, like, I have weekly meetings. Uh, and
I know what
it's
you're
like
gonna say.
you join it, and I feel like my part-time job is to let all the note takers in.
I know. And
You're
then
like,
people don't show up. There's like more note takers than there is people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like the bots show up, and pretty soon we'll have. And by the way, that's a form of the like AI showing up for you. It's a form of an
Mhm.
agent. Because if it didn't make the meeting, I'll just go read the notes. They showed up for me. I listened. I'll get the short notes. So it's becoming normalized.
Yeah. And we seem to have adopted that. So,
You know what
I think
Zoom
if
should
we
do? They should make it so you can customize your AI, your or Otter or
note
whatever.
taker?
They
Yeah.
should make it so you can customize instead of being like the black box. Whoever is in branding, and if you're listening to this and you're from Otter, you want your gold idea, make sure you give me a kickback. You should let people brand it. And I could have like Scott, like mini me. I'd make like a little micro, like I'd go to AI, make like mini me of Scott, and that would be my AI or
I
something.
think they should be like nodding and listening,
Totally. Yeah.
as
Giving the shock once in a while, like, hey, good job.
well, it's funny. Last year when I went to Inbound, Otter was there, and I did actually get a great demo, which I will say I do like Otter. I do. Since I purchased my Otter upgrade plan, there have been a lot of other plans that have come out, and I think it's hard to decipher which note taker plan is the best. I think at the end of every meeting, you get like 3 or 4 emails from other people's note takers, your note takers. It's hard to assess, but one of the things I did really like is that with Otter, over time, it sounds more and more like you. And if you're doing
Mhm.
translations, it does better translations. But you start to look, it's like now this is becoming the standard, right? So whereas that, a year, 2 years ago, you're like, wow, that's a really good feature. Now it's like, well, that's kind of a standard feature. So I'll be curious if Otter's at Inbound again this year and how they're advancing with AI.
I take my downloads of my Otter of all my conversations with a particular client when I'm trying to solve something. I put that all together in one PDF, make that the brain, and then I kind of work from that based on the conversations. And
Hmm.
it's like really, really like amazing how accurate. And it brings up details. I'm like, oh, good thing I brought up that. Thank you. That was remember that little. And I used to do. I mean, I do what I call stealth listening. I take notes, but now I can have more. What I do love about it is I can be more present because I'm not writing notes, but then am I really being more present? Because this last time at this, see, I didn't bring my computer intentionally, and
Oh,
I wrote notes.
you wait a minute. Can we just pause there for a second? You didn't bring a computer and you went to a conference?
Hmm.
How freeing was that?
It was great, and that's why I just wanted to break it up a little bit. And so, but here's the good news and bad news. The good news is like I really wrote notes, but sometimes they're going so fast. I know I could have typed it normally better because I type fast. Bad news, I can't fucking read my writing. So I got all these great ideas that I wrote in here, and I'm like, I remember when I wrote this, I can kind of make it out, but I can't tell. Like I've got about 20 things where I'm like, I guess that's just gonna either come back to me or it's lost. And it's so, you know, I
Well, you
went
know,
uh,
you
I
can
went
put
I
your
went
otter on your
analog and
phone.
only to find that, maybe I should stay digital. So
You can put your otter on your phone.
yeah, I didn't think to do that, but
That's what I did at the conference
but
last
then
time. I
I'd have this long
recorded it.
thing. I guess I'd have to. I don't know how ethical that would be if I recorded the whole conference. I'd have to ask permission or something. But I could talk to it or something. But you're in the conference, you're
Mm.
writing things down. So I did guess, but I got some good notes. But that's neither here nor there. So let's maybe keep rolling here about the topic you wanted to start with.
Oh yeah,
Let's
so
let's
you
shift
know what?
into
It
the
was funny.
news of the day.
It was funny. As soon as it came out, it went away. So for most people, if especially if you're an American, you'll be familiar with the brand Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel updated their design, and they essentially simplified it, removing, the gentleman that was in there and removing the barrel, ironically. So it just became almost a word mark, a stylized word mark, two color, very simple. And at the end of the day, it was about 5 days in, and they decided to reverse the decision after all the backlash on social media. And I thought this was interesting because I think I made this comment to you after the Jaguar thing. And I said, I wonder if it's going to get to a place where brands are going to be faking coming out with a bad logo. And I don't think Cracker Barrel faked this, but I wonder if Brands are going to fake coming out with a bad logo because of all the PR they do get when they do something like this. And I think like Crackle Barrel, was it right? Was it wrong? I understand like from two different perspectives. From a marketing perspective, you love that brand consistency, you want it to be familiar, you know, you're looking to possibly attract a different demographic, whatever it is. I think, like I said before, it got Instagramized, right? Like it got simplified down to what seems to be the common norm when they could have taken the old traditional logo and really leaned into it and had a lot more fun with it. I think they could have stood out way more leaning into that whole aesthetic, but they went simplified it right down, which is really good for logos. But I think at the end of the day, the board, the pressure, all the bad press on social media, they reversed the decision. And I do think that we're starting to create this behavior. Like, granted, Jaguar did not reverse their decision, they ended up firing their agency. But is this going to be something that we're going to have to be aware of? Is that, you know, are these always going to be genuine rebrands going forward, or are they going to be opportunities for public relations? That's what I wonder.
That's
And
what
do
you
you
wonder.
think it was
I'm
right?
curious. What do you actually think of the? What do you, first of all, do you think of the? What do you think of the new brand? First question.
I understand it from a design point of view. It's kind of a pain in the butt. From a marketing point of view, I love that it's got history and tradition, and people right now, we love nostalgia, we love tradition, we love what's familiar, because as the world changes so much, we want to always go back to something that's familiar to us. So I think that the timing of it was a little bit off, but from a marketing standpoint, I don't think it was necessary. From a designer standpoint, I can see how challenging the logo was. I think that at the end of the day, they could have had a lot more fun leaning into the original logo. I think we call it Instagram face, and this is the this look that all that people are starting to get to look the same, right? Same with like when people have those same grids. I feel like that logo got got an Instagram overhaul to you know, the stylish simplified design, but it didn't say anything. It didn't breathe. It didn't feel like it had any history. It didn't connect with us anymore. It lost its story because there was a story about the man, and um, theoretically it was, you know, the uncle or a contributor to one of the recipes. It, when you take away that, it takes away some of the story. And that's when we're, you know, we start off this conversation by talking about AI, and we want those things that we had. So as a marketer, I would have wanted to preserve the original brand and
Okay,
think
so
that,
you're saying bad idea that they
yeah,
rebranded, correct?
yeah.
So the next question is, what do you think about their decision to reverse it?
And this is where I think that we're gonna start seeing like fake brands, because why not reverse it?
Okay, let's forget about the
I
future of
okay.
that being a thing. I want to know, what do you actually think about them reversing it? Was that a good idea or bad idea?
That's a tough one. I think it's a good idea to go back to their original brand, but I think it actually takes away from the integrity as well. Like, why even bother to move forward with an attempt at rebranding if you're not going to stick with it? I give Jaguar respect. They stuck with that brand no matter what people said. They're like, yeah, this is our new brand. We needed a rebrand. This is our new rebrand. So I like that they stuck with it. I feel the flip floppy. I don't think they're going to regain that audience back. I feel like walking away from the old brand to the new one, you know, in such a manner, they lost that audience. Going back is a feeble attempt to try to get that audience
Mm,
back, and I'm not for it.
okay. All right, I got a lot to say about this. I mean, it's a
Okay.
very different perspective on it. So I think it's interesting, your perspective, and I shared a lot of your thoughts. Like the top, I think the bigger issue. So I'm going to just go before kind of going like pass or fail and stuff. I actually think the deeper, if you kind of dig under the deeper note or the nerve that was touched here, had little or nothing to do with the design of it.
It
We'll
was
get
the
to the design in a
audience.
second. I think it's actually like in brand in when you're doing brand strategy, it's the story you bring in the minds of people when you're sharing it. And I think what was the misstep here that is the piece that kind of has thrown people off, that put this into this direction to even create the backlash that even existed, was the way that they presented the premise of the change, right? Like the positioning of it, the story of it, the however you want to, like the fact that it's like, people were glomming onto, was it really because the man was gone? It's like you're changing a sacred brand, or was it because you go woke, you go broke? It's like really about wokeness, and this is just like sort of the final version of that, and that's why the big pushback of that has gone there from the conservative
Mhm.
customer base. Or let alone is it the story? Like one of the things that I would say to a client when they have I had a legacy brand that I worked with. It was called Fernie Wilderness Designs, and they had this like really old sort of fishing and sort of hunting kind of logo, and the owner, it was kind of janky, and it wasn't really, it was great for maybe a hunting fishing one, but I said, listen, why don't we just retire it? Like, what do you do when you get what happens when someone's from a hockey team? You don't kill the hockey player's jersey number. You enshrine it. Like, what if it just it was like the old version? Like they could have positioned going, this is our new modern, but we're going to keep this as sort of like the authentic, like kind of like Coca-Cola Classic. Like that could have been something to be like as an example of like, we're not killing it. We're just revising it. It's still going to be there, but it's going to be kind of like repositioned or something, right? That could
Mhm.
have been something, but that might have been too soft. I'm going to read for you an interesting take from someone who I absolutely deeply respect, that really like really landed for me. And it's something to do a little bit more about leadership. It's more about the
Ooh.
premise. It's more about the backbone of who owns a brand, right? Because in the case that people are going, the president was even commenting on, like, does he own the decision of the brand? Is it the people going, the dying, 80-year-olds that are boomers that are going, you shouldn't have changed the old man on the barrel, like, and that was the move. I don't know if that's exactly who it was, or if it was the people that are going, you go woke, you broke, whatever. Let me read this thing, and then we'll kind of go from there. So it's from Ron Tite. Um, his headline is "Marketers, WTF, take your brand back." There's this line that's been repeated so often it becomes some sort of accepted truth. Your brand doesn't belong to you, it belongs to your customers. We've all heard that, right?
Mhm.
Sorry, friends, but that's bullshit. Totally wait till you hear what he says. I love this. To be clear, marketers, your brand absolutely belongs to you. This is probably going to be someone that's listening is going to be losing their mind right now. It doesn't, it absolutely belongs to you and only you. It belongs to the people who consciously built it, the people who steward it, and the people who live it every day. Marketers. Yes, consumers experience the brand, but they don't own it. Every single consumer experiences the brand differently. While one may see inspiration in the brand, others see affordability. While someone sees convenience, another sees personality. One consumer's dream is another's, nah, I'm good. Trying to shape your brand based on a million fragmented opinions from Facebook comments is not a strategy, it's total chaos. Look, Cracker Barrel made a bold move. They updated the brand based on, I'm assuming, insights, research, business goals, and ambition. A few loud voices screamed that they folded like cards on a table, like folded like a card table at a church picnic. Where were the voices even customers? Good question. If so, what kind of customer? Were they in the target demo? Were they part of the strategy? Who knows? We don't, and the company doesn't. Suddenly, we're handing over the keys to people who don't even have a license. We're convinced ourselves that feedback equals direction. That criticism equals strategy. That volume equals truth. It doesn't. If we let public opinion shape every move, we don't need CMOs. We need moderators. We don't need insights. We need polls. We don't need marketing. We need crowdsourcing. And if you're taking brand advice from politicians, well, good luck. They certainly won't be around to offer support when you're canned for not meeting business results. This is your brand. You own it, protect it, lead it, grow it. And I was like, I think he's right. And I've bought into that before. Like, well, the customer owns the brand because they own their experience of it. No, they own the experience of it. Like marketers and brand strategists, this is the baby they're creating. They're responsible for creating this, whatever this thing is.
Mhm.
And so the leadership, I feel like the leadership of this brand was a total fail. It was the leadership of why doing it and standing firm. I agree with you with the Jaguar. As much as I think that that's one of the worst rebrands of all time, I applaud them for at least staying true to whatever they feel is going to work for them. That's good
Mhm.
for them. But in this case, like you said, what is the actual outcome? Well, they become this spineless. Like we're gonna create barrels, just gonna follow the public opinion and move where the wind blows. Like, where's the roots in that? Like when you make a brand decision of that magnitude with that much money, you had to have done the work. And it either tells me they didn't do the work. This was some flimsy surface level branding scheme, or if they did the real work, like I would do with my clients, or most brands do, then why wouldn't they come back and I think they tried to
Mhm.
kind of like rebuttal it, but I think at the end of the day, it came down to the premise, the way they delivered it, and the fact that they didn't actually lean into the fact going the that brand doesn't represent the audience that we're trying to convert to, because what's part of that story that most people don't understand is they're redesigning their all the sort of the
Interiors.
tired look and feel of the stores and stuff,
Mhm.
and I have a deep appreciation for that. It needed a refresh. So the people that go to Cracker Barrel and they don't want the world to change, I get that too. Why not do both? Why not why not still, like you said, I loved how you said feather in some of that heritage in the logo. Maybe that they went a little too far. That might have been something to think about, but they still could have that feeling in the story. But I think that the way they delivered the story and the lack of leadership is the biggest fail.
Yeah, well, I think that's it, Scott. If this was a good rebrand, then we would understand. But I don't think that's what it was. I think it was too
Was it a
watered
bad
down.
rebrand? Because the brand doesn't look that bad. Like I didn't mind it. Like I'm literally going, is it amazing?
There's
Did it
like
make you
no
feel?
personality to it.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
so
But
flat.
it was simplified. So I actually
Yeah.
didn't think it was that bad of a brand. I think explain, like, how do you explain how many brands do you like? Target, that's not that much personality to it, but that's considered a really iconic brand.
It's
It's
very
simple,
clear.
right? So, but it's the story behind it, right? It's
Yeah.
the feeling, the story, the in the minds of everyone. I think that they didn't connect in the minds of people what they were really trying to communicate is the biggest fail in that.
Yeah, I think it's because they went away from what the Cracker Barrel brand felt like. And I thought they could lean into it, right? We are ready for that. We're ready for that nostalgia. And I like the idea of we could retire it. Like we talked last week about Range Rover. Range Rover was not getting rid of their lettering on the front of the vehicles or the back of the vehicles. They were just going to use the RR for
Hmm.
specific purposes. From a design perspective, the CB, that how they did the stylized the CB, that could have been used very well for in design circumstances, right? Where needed, because we do have to accommodate for profiles, those small circles and things like that. There are icon opportunities that you
It's the
need.
same premise though, the Range Rover from last week to this one.
Mhm.
So it's like they were trying to make a more usable in this digital world logo. Like the premise of that is the same, but they didn't get the same backlash. They're totally different. I
Because
think
Range
it's a
Rover
lot to
didn't
do
give
with
up
the
their old logo.
what's that?
Range Rover didn't give up their old logo. Cracker Barrel was
That's my
giving
point.
up
They could
their
have
old
should
logo.
the
Yeah.
Cracker Barrel original one should have been still part of the, like, it's not going away.
Hmm.
It's part of our heritage. It's going to be enshrined forever in the stores as you see it. But this is more of our digital like they could have they could have done that and preserved that if they wanted to.
Well, I
But
think there's also, as we have different generations, there are generations that grew up with Cracker Barrel, and to them, it's losing a part of their heritage, their history,
right.
their memories, and things like that. Rather than reframing it, A&W did it really well. A&W has had, and I don't know if all Americans really know about A&W, but A&W has gone through these cycles. And when they brought back the teen burger, the mama burger, the papa burger, they brought it back with that retro feel, which was very much like the original, but with a little tidying up, right? Much like a lot of logos need little tidying up because they were done by hand or whatever, and to vectorize them. But they brought that back really authentically. They didn't get rid of anything that they had before. Like you go to an AW nowadays, they will still give you your drink in a frosted mug. right? A glass mug at that, right? I think that's what we fear we're losing is some of those heritage things that tie so much to our youth. And when it's just all stripped away without really any explanation or anything like that, that's when it feels like nobody's listening, nobody's hearing us. But I love that is like we're the people complaining, even the ones that are our customers. Because I think like we have the same thing in politics all of North America wide. The people who complain about politics are sometimes the ones that are not even voting, right? Where do
Totally.
we give
Yeah.
people the voice, the last word? I think it's a great conversation piece.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I think that the net them folding and shifting, it's actually they may have got visibility, but I don't think all press is good press. I think it actually is going to hurt the brand hard. It'll recover, but I think I don't even think I don't think coming back and then well we're going to bring back those and we're going to bring those. I think that's they're going to come to some sort of middle ground because they've already the train has left the station in some way.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see what the cleanup of this is. I think it's a shit show.
I feel like we didn't touch on this either is that the sheer cost of this.
Oh
The
my god.
sheer cost of a rebrand when you think of a major brand, we'll take Cracker Barrel in this circumstance, rebranding and redesigning and buying materials, posters, napkins, everything with a new logo design. The sheer cost of rebranding on this scale and how like that's such an impact for a company.
It is.
Which is
And
why more important that you do the research beforehand and you're never going to get 100% buy-in. You
why
never
I'm probably thinking they did the research with the amount of money I saw the budget for the rebrand was huge. They did they had to have they had to have done the level of research. This just became a they couldn't handle the pressure because they weren't leading. The premise of I literally think it's this is a leadership issue and they should I think they could have handled it totally differently.
I think we
Um,
also get into mob mentality where people like to be part of a mob. So a bunch of people start saying like, "I hate Cracker Barrel." They're like, "Yeah, I hate Cracker Barrel too," right? Like,
well,
it's
it became political. I think is
yeah.
what is
Oh,
the
and
that
that
became
makes it worse. That's definitely an area that should not have been involved in this.
yeah. Well, Cracker Barrel may have did it to themselves. I mean, I think this is demise by their own making. I'm not going to give them any outs. This is a great. This is going to be a lesson for other people about like how they go about branding and shifting. When you go hard on a public policy or a political direction in your business, you may stand for things, but be prepared to have to deal with the headwinds if you decide to change direction. So, I think this is going to be interesting to see.
I think like literally you just touched on what we just went through here in Canada with Air Canada. Our government has bailed Air Canada out. Could you imagine if Air Canada did a rebrand that was going to cost them a lot of money? The government gets involved, and like the government got involved in their most recent strike, right? Where is that separation, that line, right?
Yeah. Just on a side note, have you seen the rebranding for Calgary?
Yeah, daughters. Yeah, I think his daughters did it.
I don't know. Just
It
do you know
was
what?
launched. It was launched at
Would you remember what the tagline is now?
the Blue Sky City. You know what?
I can't believe that anybody got paid for it, and then let alone the visuals of it. It's like
I
anybody
know
that are not in Calgary, you'd probably see. But for me, it was it's. If I'm sorry, guys, if you're from Calgary and watching this
they
live,
are. Yeah.
and if they're watching this live, it was terrible.
I don't like when so because I'm in Okotoks, I see the sign all the time when I drive to the
Yeah.
city. I hate the layout of the sign.
Oh, I know.
It
It's just it
grinds me
hurts me.
all the time.
It's it's like my eyes bleed. I see it every time I come up
Yeah.
down off the loop here, and I'm just like, oh, I paid money to get rid of it.
Yeah. And I did like what we were before, right? Like,
That's great.
yeah, the
So
heart of
why rebrand? That's another thing. Like when is the right time to rebrand? I think that you get a new manager or you get a new person. They think, well, if I can rebrand, it's going to suddenly change my business or my life, and sometimes it makes it worse. The case in
Mhm.
point, Cracker Barrel, and I think the city of Calgary,
Jaguar.
I would argue as well. And I think what happens a lot of times is an agency wants to put a thumbprint on it, or a new marketing manager, and if you're a founder and they come in and they go, that what they're, I don't always think that that's the case. There needs to be a really solid foundational reason for doing it, and it's because you want to make a you either want to create a different perception, a changing perception of the brand, the sensitivity to price to the brand, possibly it might be another. Um, but you have to be able to create a story around it. You have to make it has to make sense in some way, and you're doing it because it's actually going to make marketing easier. It's going to connect more with your audience, not just rebrand for rebranding's sake. And I think that I would argue, I most rebrands that I see brand stretch do, it's just one of those because they think, it'll buy us some time. Maybe it'll work. I don't know. And I think that's
Well, I think it was daughters, but the premise behind the City of Calgary one was that the one
oh,
thing
you know
that
the premise.
yeah, I told you was at the gathering last year.
Oh, I did.
No
Sorry, I didn't
discussion,
catch
yeah.
that little bit there.
Yeah,
Please
I
go
know the
on.
whole story of it.
Okay,
So
let's hear it. Oh my
they did
God.
some research and they interviewed a bunch of people, like new immigrants to the city, people who've lived here for a long time. They did a bunch of interviews and they realized that the one thing that everybody shares together is that we're under this one big blue sky. That's why we are the blue sky city.
Isn't Montana the blue sky state?
Well, we got to be the blue sky city, my friend, and we do have an average of 330 days of sunshine because of where we're located. But that was the premise behind it. They did do research and launch, and they did do. I think it took like a year and some or more to go over it all. I'm not as bothered by that. Like, okay, we're a blue sky state. I don't care. I just hate the way it looks. Like, I'm just bothered as from the design perspective. I'm just bothered by the way it looks. I'm like, if it was launched like that, but in the same font style as the previous one, I'm like, yeah, that's great. But we went from red to blue, and I don't feel like blue feels very Calgary to me. I felt like really
Calgary Flames, like
I felt so
everything about
different
it's
to
a
the
fail.
red.
Yeah, I
Like it
know.
felt like our city
So how
was
much money is that
our,
going to cost the city now to now upgrade the rest of the city stuff to be?
well,
If it was
that's it.
red and just a version of it, it would have been not as expensive. But now we're going to pay all our tax. Anyways, talk about tax.
I feel like sometimes some of these are not a marketing, like a CMO or a marketing rep or a strategist trying to like change things up. My opinion is that sometimes this is political, like our mayor going, I want something that represents my term. I want to have this, I want to have that. I see it in our local politics, all the stuff that has been launched that is like, this is going to be the legacy of my time here. And I think that when design is designed from a place of ego, that's when it fails. It will inevitably fail. When it's designed from a place of authenticity, understanding, empathy, all of that, a real connection, that's when it's successful. That's why I think some of these things also don't work.
I love Ron's comment about crowdsourcing brand. Like it here's I used to do these brand strategies with the team,
Hmm.
and I still do a portion of it, but not all of it. Matter of fact, almost none of it. And I used to but I found that when you're in a committee setting, it goes
Oh,
to the middle. And if you're not leader led, someone's got pardon the word, the balls to just make a decision and go in a direction and be fucking brave. You get these watered down brands, and I just feel like I look at that Craig Grattan Barrel. It's probably committee, and it's committee that's making the decision, and it's the committee that helped them change the decision. It wasn't leader led. It goes back to my comment about leadership, right?
yeah.
And I think that is the division. I think communities, if you look at building a virtual community, you can totally tell a community that's not leader led and it's sort of like community driven and everybody
Hmm.
thinks it's kumbaya. Good fucking luck. It's like cats going everywhere. The brands that are succeeding or communities are leader led. They're like have a direction, a focus, a premise, a statement, a manifesto, a direction. And I
Yeah.
think that we are craving this stuff. We're sick of this stupid committee stuff. Well, at least not everyone's sick of it because we're still clearly doing it. I know I am.
You know what Henry Ford said? If he'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said more horses,
Yeah.
right? Instead of a car. I think it is the boldness of people who are willing to make decisions. I believe design by consensus gives you the ugliest design, right?
And that's why I think the city
Absolutely.
of Calgary was designed by consensus.
Yeah, it becomes too bland.
Yeah.
It doesn't stand out because it's made to make everybody happy. And it doesn't. It doesn't make anybody truly happy. It doesn't make people truly miserable. They're all just like, we're all indifferent to it. So
Market to everybody, you market to nobody.
right?
You
I
appeal
think
to
that's a
nobody.
lesson
Yeah.
for yourself.
I think that, even just like niching, it's like, who do you really intend to market to? If you think of Lululemon, right? Lululemon does not market to Scott Martin, right? It doesn't. Like, I don't see any ad that I go, that's me. This is my brand. But you know what? Every item of clothes that I wear 99% of the time, including my winter jacket, is Lululemon. Even down to my underwear. It's all Lululemon. But they don't market to me. So I think people get caught up in this assumption that they need to brand that way. And I think you need to go deep. You need to go deep with who you actually your inner circle connecting with, that core audience of Cracker and Barrel knew, or the market that they were going after, that they must have done the research and tapped into to make this change, and they should just owned it. And some people are gonna, everyone's gonna, there's gonna be some flack for everything that you do new, because some people just don't like change.
Yeah, no,
You can
I
always bring it back. Coke did.
well, so did Pepsi. Pepsi's newest logo looks more like their old logo, which I think is great, but it's like a new spin on their old logo. So
Totally.
we
Like,
have all these
go
iterations.
new and then bring it back, like the double Big Mac, like whatever, I think it's just having the fortitude to just like, this is what we're doing, and how we're doing it. But hard to do different when you're a public company, though. That's the other thing. That's crowdsourcing your decision making. When you're a public company, I have to say that's a different decision.
Yeah.
That's there because if you don't have access to that equity, that can really impede your ability to grow and do what you need to do. I would argue they're probably going to do so much damage on it anyways, that they might as well stay the course.
Yeah, no, I agree. Anyway, that's been pretty interesting chat about Cracker Barrel and branding.
Totally. And I noticed that there's this new trend in branding, which is orange.
Oh, I love orange.
Because, well, Taylor Swift, apparently she's like created the trend for orange. And I like to say that we came up with rip currents in orange, and you were in orange far
Before
before
that,
that trend. So we are trend setting, but we're like pre-trend setters.
do you know why I have orange? I
Tell me.
like using my orange phone. It's because I'm Dutch.
I think you told me.
And orange is a very Dutch color. And so it's my way of like leaning back to I am Dutch. I love orange. It was one of my wedding colors, which how weird is that when you think about it?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at what the color orange represents, and when we talk about color psychology and design psychology, it's energy, changeable, vibrant, right? All of the things that you want to have associated with you and have you feel. So, of course, orange makes so much sense when you actually look at it in hindsight. But when talk about, so if she was the big one of the big conversations, and it's funny, I made a joke on my Instagram that you were either in the camp of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce,
Okay.
or you were on the F1 and you were talking about Perez and Bottas. Because I think that large segment of the audiences were one or the other. But it was a big week for announcements like that. We also had, I'm a big Eminem fan, so Stans came out on Paramount this week, so I had to check that out. Great movie, produced by Eminem and somebody else, about just fandom,
Hmm.
fans of celebrities, and like everybody knows the Beehive for Beyonce and the Swifties for Taylor Swift. Eminem, they're called Stans, which actually made it to the Merriam-Webster dictionary as a raving fan.
Mm-hmm. And so, what's your thoughts of fans?
Well, this is kind of goes back to the Cracker Barrel. Like if you loop it all in together, it's like knowing who you're actually talking to. Who are you doing all of this for? Like when Taylor Swift went on the podcast of the two Khaleesi brothers, she was dropping all those nuggets because that's what her fans love. They love to dissect everything, and she loves to throw out those little eggs, those little Easter eggs all the time for people to grab onto. And I love that. I love that that's the way that they make their community. That's the way that they have this secret language with each other. And I think that's super important. But I think that when you're building a brand or designing a brand or you own a brand, you have to know those things about your audience. And I think sometimes we have artists like,
So I would argue, if there is a fan, they would have been they wouldn't have they're probably not the ones that were were by definition the ones that were backlashing. I'll give you an example. If I'm a fan of the Boston Red Sox, they could throw anything at me, and I'm like, I'm just consuming because I'm a fan. If you're a fan
Hmm.
of Taylor Swift, you're going to go, they're going to defend that one album that she did that everyone else goes, well, but you know what? She did this because she did, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're a true
Yeah.
fan, true fans will ride through you. They're your ride or dies, right? So their fans probably were not the ones that were actually complaining, the true core fans. And I think people conflate fans and clients. They're not the same. You
Yeah,
know, like
no.
I'm not, so I'm, so for example, like I spent, 7 years, whatever, um, spending a lot of money with Tony Robbins and his, and some people go, "Are you a fan?" I'm like, "No, I'm a student. Like I'm not even a client. I'm a student. Like, I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
you're even grasping why I'm investing that, right? Like, and it really, I remember that when that came up to me a while ago, it made me in my mind. I actually got like an article that's been a draft about the idea of, fans versus clients, and people are always talking about, build your biggest fans and stuff like that. And I think fans aren't built; they're not manufactured.
Mhm.
They're your ride or dies because something deeply connects them about what you stand for, what you do. It's more there, and they're your ride or dies. And so, and if they're a true fan, like think of people that are Toronto. What's it? The hockey team in Toronto. They've
Blue
never
Jay
won.
Maple
Yeah,
Leafs?
talk about ride or die. They've never
Yeah.
won, so they're not even winning. So if you're a business and you're not even winning or delivering, they're still your fans. You know what I mean? Like,
It's like love. You don't see the appearance. So it's like if you're a real fan, you're not looking at the aesthetic of it. You're looking at the core of it.
yeah, and I
You're
think that a
focused
lot
on
of
the core.
marketing people use fandom, like you should build your audience like fans and stuff like that. And I don't think they realize that it's a different category, it's a different sliver. It's not really something it's something that happens,
I think it depends on what you're
you know?
going for. Like if you're trying to grow your business, that's the one thing. Like some people will focus on how do I get more followers and more fans, all of that kind of stuff, and not even realize that that does not convert, right? And then other people will like, how do I get more conversions? And they know it's not necessarily by fans, but it's by being compelling, it's by connecting, it's about building something stronger, more significant, right? So I think when people are talking about that in business, they do have you do have to understand that there's a difference. Like you can have 300,000 followers on Instagram and only convert 0.01% of them. Then it doesn't really matter if unless you have like versus having 300 amazing customers that are happy to refer you and talk to you in rooms that you're not in and all that kind of two different classes. So I agree.
A
Fans are
lot of people that are
not
fans that
necessarily.
are not spending money.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
talk that, by the way, this fan discussion could be a whole its own segment.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Yeah.
any wrapping up comments? You're
No,
gone
I
next
don't
week.
think. Yeah, I'm gone next week to conference.
Yep.
Again, AI community, all of that kind of stuff. I do like these things. I'll have a couple extra days in San Francisco to enjoy a city that I love going to because it is so uniquely itself. It doesn't try to be anything else. It's just San Fran. You know it.
Right.
So, yeah, no, I'll be interested to see what comes up. But this is always a super busy time for me. September, getting into the fall as everybody gets refocused back at work and gets back to their desks. But yeah, it'll be interesting. How about you?
So on the 12th, just so you know, I'm telling you this in real time, so it's
Mm.
live. I'm actually going to be in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to miss that week and follow up the following week. But next week I'll do a solo episode, or I might have a guest episode, guest someone
Okay.
come up last minute. Um, and yeah, I think this is. I'm looking forward to the full update on the inbound. Maybe you and I could record it on Thursday or something, so we can still do it
Mhm.
just on the Friday time. So maybe you and I can talk about that because I hate
Okay.
to miss a week because I really want to get the update from inbound because I'm sure you're going to give us some gold,
Yeah, it's the third to the fifth. So,
orange gold, that is.
right, right, orange.
All right. Well, that's I think that's a wrap for this week. Thanks for tuning in to the Rip Currents, and until next time, we'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon.